there in the very last pages of the Lord of the Rings, Frodo, who sails west, and at a certain point he seems to see, has the feeling to see a green land appearing after behind a curtain of subtle mist. So this substance of ethereal and eternal comes true in a world that is material, and this dimension of travel emerges as a bridge between mortality and immortality, so that death and resurrection actually seem to happen at the same time. And this is something that we these feelings and these suggestions come to us, for instance, from other literary situations. Let us think of the Odyssey, of the experience of Ulysses on the river Oceanus, when he wants to reach the land of the dead, and passes through the land of the Cimmerians. How do you say? Cimmeri, we say in Italian. It's a population that lives in a world made of fog, without light, so that there is an Italian researcher, Felice Vinci, who has tried to interpret the Homer's poems, the Iliad and the Odyssey, as the transposition of Nordic materials coming from the Scandinavian regions into the Mediterranean area. They would have come down with the people that emigrated from the north and then descended to the Mediterranean world. We call that in Italian invasione dei Dori.
Doric invasion.
Doric invasion. Okay. And this interpretation may be right or wrong, but whatever it means, the fact that we find a population that lives in an environment that is so very similar to the Nordic atmospheres. For instance, let's think of Iceland, let's think of Norway, of these places where for half of the year there is almost no light, gives us a hint that is very important concerning the punti cardinali, as I told you, the points of the compass, because we can actually consider the theme of travel in Middle-earth as a continuous movement between different absolute and so not only geographic points. In this case, we're dealing with an absolute north, and this absolute north is, in other words, the immediate and raw contact of man with a nature that is, and can prove, very often proves, pitiless to him. A man like Ulysses, who sails west, finds an invisible north, and in the same way, we find Ulysses in the Divine Comedy, in the Inferno, the 26th canto, traveling westwards because of curiosity, because he wants to seguire virtute e conoscenza. He wants to develop the human intellect. He's curious. He can't surrender. He can't stop. And what does he find? The rush contact, the harsh contact, and the perilous situation of facing the strength of nature. What does better represent nature's force than the concept of absolute north? While we look for the west, while we look for a place of serenity, while we look for a place of immortality in the case of Frodo, we can find the threat of the north, of an unexpected north. In the same way in which, while going eastwards, as it happens to Ulysses in the Odyssey, when he goes to the Isle of Aea, where he finds, where he encounters Circe. How do you say in English? Circe. That's a land of unclear meanings, a land where men are transformed into animals and made somehow slaves, because their logos is reduced to a mere instinct, a mere awareness of their own being, as animals may have. So it's the land of what is unknown. Let us remember how important the East to the Greek civilization was. Let's think of Alexander the Great and his travel toward India, and all the historians that stemmed out of his experience as a traveler, who described incredible situations such as I might be wrong, but I think people being born old and going back to their childhood during their lives. I think there was also something like that that is taken again into consideration by Oscar Wilde in one of his short stories. And then the whales, and then the wondrous and somehow threatening creatures outside of every possible scheme of rationality. That it was the basic Greek value. So the East fascinated the Greek, that's for sure. But going towards the East, you may find something unpredicted as well. So you may find the same way going westwards, you can find an invisible north there to take you off guard, as we said before, to catch you unprepared and possibly kill you. Going eastwards, you can find a witch, or anyway a creature that's very, very unpredictable in her own conduct. And you can also find, other than that, an unexpected positive situation, an unexpected south. You can feel the beauty, you can feel the heat, the warmth, and the serenity that stems out of the environment. I found this translation by Samuel Butler of the Odyssey online. And here we read, there were wild mountain wolves and lions prowling all around it. Poor bewitched creatures whom she had tamed by her enchantments and dragged into subjection. They did not attack my men, but wagged their great tails, fawned upon them, and rubbed their noses lovingly against them. And all around this, there is an environment, say a natural view, made of peace, made of heat, of a Mediterranean container, let's say, of emotions and experiences, that comes unexpected. This is an absolute south that we can find without us being prepared for that.